mountain lair is running low on Fresca and you need a run to the store, you hire the part-time henchman. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
And I'm Tom Hanks.
Wow, Tom, you sound like you've gotten old.
No, can't put one on you, Jeremy.
Okay.
It's actually Casey.
Nice.
I fooled you.
All right, you know who got fooled? Everybody who went to the Cosplay Wrestling Federation panel at Anime Expo.
Look at that segue. That's professional grade.
Nice.
I went to this show and I wasn't in the tournament, but I showed up there with a duffel bag, a folding chair, and me in plain clothes. And everyone kept asking for the next 2 hours, what are you doing? And all I can tell them is I'm not in the show. Don't worry about it. The show starts and I'm backstage with all the other performers slowly changing in my Mario outfit. What are you doing? I'm not in the show. But what are you doing? I'm not in the show. I'm not your problem. Don't focus on me. And about 2/3 of the way through the show, I got my cue, grabbed my chair, and hit someone else in the back with it. And when it's a 100,
Man, it's the folding chair was giving you away, my friend.
oh, dude, what was it? Most of the people didn't know that the guy I hit, he and I already have an arrangement to be in an actual professional wrestling tag team match at SAC Anime, and this was the setup for that. So when I went out and whacked him, everybody in the crowd just freaked out on me. I think the first hit, they thought I just snapped. There were people honestly worried that I'd lost my mind. Oddly enough, the second hit clued them in that this may be a storyline thing.
Yeah. I've lost my cool, and I have a folding chair.
Yeah. Well, I had to bring the chair only because most convention centers have those padded seating chairs, and to hit somebody with that, you can do some real damage.
Yeah.
So
Actually, watched a montage. Surprisingly, you should bring that up. I watched a montage a few days ago, which primarily was all chair shots. And I'm like, who is making these chairs? You know, there's a factory somewhere making wrestling chairs just for this purpose.
Well, it turns out most of those chairs are really just standard folding steel chairs. There's nothing really special about them. You learn how to swing it so you don't hurt somebody as you could.
It's like you're dispersing the energy at the widest, so you're more smacking them than you're hitting them, right?
Well, it's also about the other guy knowing how to bend and contort so that he, I don't know, rolls away from it or at least takes most of it in the flattest surfaces of his body.
Ah, I see.
So it's a give and take, but yeah, there's nothing truly special about the chairs. It's like the tables. There's nothing truly special about them until somebody takes a hacksaw to them and cuts them mostly apart.
Yeah, so I saw an advertisement. I think maybe it was on your Facebook, and it showcased 4 people.
Yeah.
Doing the cosplay wrestling matches. So.
Well, actually, 2 of us are Cosplay Wrestling Federation people. The other 2 are from Supreme Pro Wrestling. So the 4 people in that are the tag team participants.
Cool.
This is actually happening. I know. It's bizarre. Especially
so this is happening at San Diego, right?
No, it's SAC Anime, actually.
SAC Anime, okay.
Yeah, it's in Sacramento, September 1st.
I'm trying to get your plug.
Yeah, my calendar is bizarre. I got to go to San Diego Comic-Con in 9 days. Then there's a high likelihood I have to go to Anime California for more Cosplay Wrestling Federation business. 2 weeks after that, I have to go to SAC Anime on September 1st for the pro wrestling thing. And we've already gotten the okay that we've been invited to Hentai Con in the middle of October to do more cosplay wrestling stuff.
I'm sorry, what was that? Hentai Con?
It's exactly what I said.
That's the one with tentacles, right?
Oh
but
my God, that's
not
gotta be
always.
Like the creepiest place.
You know,
Tentacles and screaming is all I can think of.
yeah,
when
not
I hear
always. You know,
hentai.
I'm going to be surrounded by a bunch of adult entertainment enthusiasts, and the creator of cosplay wrestling has already named the show CWF Money Shot, which is brilliant and creepy.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's like a raincoat environment, I think. That's what I would have to wear going into this convention.
Yeah. There's more to this, but I don't want to dominate everything. How are you 2 doing?
Finding my voice in the podcast very early, apparently. I have actually been spending time at home because my car crapped out on me, and I'm buying a new car on Wednesday, so I'm really spazzed about that.
Okay.
So I decided to discover a new game, and I'm playing Dead by Daylight.
Okay.
Nice.
I've never been much into the survival horror genre of games. I usually just enjoy the more action-oriented stuff.
I'm a social gamer, and I like the social aspect it gives you because you have an option of surviving with your friends, which you can get like 3 of your friends and go in as a group of 4, or you can just dominate the whole thing, have 5 people, and one plays the killer, but you don't get as many XP points.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You just
Fun.
trip the rest of them as you're running away, right?
No one actually trips. My friend actually brought that up because the character I
Aw.
play in the game is a woman, and it's like, as you're playing a female character, I'm fully expecting you to trip every 5 minutes. I'm like, you would think so,
What?
but
does-
no,
Balance have to do with being male or female?
because of the tropes.
You know what though?
Every-
You should be glad there are no tropes, because if there was a black character, that means 30 seconds in you have to fall over dead.
But my female character has a thing where she runs, and she's usually faster than the killer. But if you hit her, like if the killer hits her once, she bursts for like 3 seconds and just completely smokes him.
Huh.
Odd.
That's a strange mechanic.
Mhm.
What about you, Joanna? Any hijinks?
I survived the weekend and Monday.
It sounds like you were at the CWF show and missed a chair shot or something.
No. Just really busy weekend, and then Monday just sucked.
Okay.
It was rough.
All right. Well, I can't argue with that. So I guess we'll just get into it then. The subject of this week is the first part of the Punisher War Machine storyline that Marvel Comics is currently running. We'll get to that after the news of the week, and we'll start with Marvel comic news, the stories of the characters and intellectual properties owned by the House of Mouse and what they're up to. Marvel has announced a new miniseries that is crossing over 2 characters who have had surprisingly little interaction in their history.
Would that be Deadpool and Black Panther?
It is.
Hmm.
That is the name of the miniseries, Black Panther versus Deadpool.
Nice.
I don't even know who thought this up, but the series is going to be written by Daniel Kibblesmith. He previously worked on Lockjaw and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The artist is Ricardo Lopez Ortiz from Hit Girl and Civil War II Kingpin. Ryan Benjamin did the cover for the first issue. I don't think I'm a fan of Ricardo Lopez Ortiz. I think his art has recently been in Weapon X, and it did not wow me.
Are you talking about the most recent issue of Weapon X? Because,
Yeah.
wow, that turd was smoking.
I believe that's the same guy. I'd have to go back and check my notes, but I'm pretty sure that's him.
What was the last name on that?
Ricardo Lopez Ortiz was the full name on it.
Oh, maybe I'm just thinking of the artist on the Punisher series that we're going to be looking at, because I'm not a fan of him either. But yeah, the guy that did the most recent Weapon X, the one that just came out this week, and I guess for the people listening to this month, because God, our episodes can sometimes lag a week or two.
It was number 20.
Right, number 20. Damn, did it suck?
Yeah, I just pulled it off my desk here and opened up the credits page. The artist on it was Ricardo Lopez Ortiz.
Oh God, awful, awful, awful. Never hire this guy again.
Well, he's the one doing this mini. Apparently, he's the regular artist.
Yeah, so I think I'll be skipping that series you just mentioned. And I can't believe that Marvel actually gave him something like that.
Well, I don't know how seriously they take it. Sometimes these minis are passion projects.
Well, I mean, this guy he clearly draws for high-intensity comic strip stuff, because we're talking like bulging eyeballs comic strip shit. Lots of speed lines. He definitely does action. He has a kinetic sense, but his art is extremely sloppy. His proportions are basically just straight up and down. You just have blocks of people, and everybody's face just looks like a caricature.
I didn't think his characters were blocky. If anything, I thought they were too lanky and bulbous.
I was talking about Omega Red. Did you take a look at how Omega Red was built? It was like a walking wall.
Yeah, everybody I thought was very lanky and bulbous was the problem. It looked like he was going for a very manga-style art, but somehow fell very short of that.
Very. I mean, if he was trying for stylized, he fucked up. He fucked up.
Well, did anyone else read the first issue of The Death of the Inhumans last week?
I
No.
did.
Man.
I did. And when you said Lockjaw, I immediately thought about it.
Well, Donny Cates, the writer of Death of the Inhumans miniseries, it turns out that title is extremely literal, and he decided to apologize to people.
Yeah, because they whacked 3 Inhumans, flat out, first issue.
Well,
I mean,
not just 3 Inhumans, 3 royal family members.
yeah, Triton was wiped out and then practically forgotten about. It's like the royal family couldn't process that Triton just got his ass blown away
Yeah.
for like the rest of the issue.
Joanna, it sounds like you got a little bit of confusion. I mean, the Inhumans have been introduced to pop culture. They're humans who were genetically modified by the Kree generations ago, and they developed a society growing up around the special ones having abilities, and they have a royal family similar to a lot of other monarchies. So when people mention the Inhumans, the royal family are the first 6 or 7 that pop to mind. But this miniseries, even though it says in the title, Death of the Inhumans, most of the time a character death doesn't happen till the last third of a story. In this case, the very first issue took 3 out of 8 of them right off the board.
Yeah,
Wow.
big time ones. And the Inhumans, I'm not surprised by this because the Inhumans really are the first real official failure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, I don't
So they
even...
took a page out of Game of Thrones there, just killed off a third of the cast.
Yeah,
It's just not working.
personally,
Inhumans just isn't working.
Personally, I don't think the Inhumans has ever really succeeded on a lot of levels. I mean, they've had series starring these characters, but for the most part, the ones that have succeeded have been, guest teammates of other teams, unfortunately.
Yeah, they've had plenty of Marvel's really been trying to make this Inhuman thing work, and they've launched like maybe 4 Inhuman series in the past 4 years, and that's not even counting Royals or this series. That's like 5 at least.
Yeah, but even the most successful Inhuman series stars characters like Miss Marvel and Magic from the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm nothing against the characters inherently. I'm sure when they were created, they were just what they were looking for, but it's not one of those concepts that's carried over very well over the decades.
Right, sounds like it.
The Champions are about to debut the issue, number 22, that has the new costumes and looks for Ironheart and Amadeus Cho.
I haven't had a chance to look into that, but being the absolute costume whore I'm going to dig into that issue.
Well, we've seen the promo image from weeks ago, probably about 2 or 3 months by now, and the storyline has already been told in The Incredible Hulk about Amadeus Cho's powers needing to be reduced after he had a bit of a Rageaholic incident, as well as the reintroduction of Bruce Banner and the Immortal Hulk, so obviously he had to go through some kind of conceptual change.
And this is when I have to admit that I'm a few issues behind on my Champions. I don't read Hulk, so I don't know why it's called Immortal. I don't know the hook on Bruce Banner, and I don't know why what Amadeus Cho did to cause this.
Let's back up a little bit. At the beginning of this latest era of Marvel, the Hulk was malfunctioning. He was emitting gamma radiations in high doses to the point where a team of helpers and scientists had him in the ocean, but he was still parboiling the water immediately around him just due to the gamma energy pouring off him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amadeus Cho was one of the scientists who was helping to try to alleviate the problem, and what he eventually came up with was a nanite swarm that bled the Hulk dry of gamma radiation, essentially like a pseudo-cure. I say pseudo because obviously it never really takes when it comes to Bruce Banner.
Right.
But instead of just bleeding off that energy, Cho took the swarm into his own body, which is how he created his own Hulk abilities, but because it was mechanical in nature, he thought he was going to have finer control over the rage issues that most gamma characters in Marvel suffer from, including the calm ones. After about 2 years of adventures, it turns out he was wrong. His sister introduced counter nanites into his system while he was losing his mind that were destroying the original nanites, but he regained control before all the nanites were destroyed. That's why he slimmed down, but still a gamma-charged character.
Okay. Well, it's important for his silhouette to be different from the Hulk since Bruce is obviously still in the play.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I guess this makes sense.
Well, with the reintroduction...
I do want to see...
Go ahead.
No, I want to see the issue because I want to see if there's more reason as to why Ironheart and her design looks different, or if it's just like a cosmetic thing, or did she build it herself?
That actually has to do with the Infinity 2 shots, issues 1 and 2, Infinity Champions. The Champions met Thanos face-to-face.
Oh.
And
shows how far behind I am.
Yeah, Thanos literally destroyed her armor, so... after a little bit of a mental breakdown and some in-house counseling by Viv, Riri rebuilt her armor from scratch.
Cool.
That's why she has new armor, and now Amadeus Cho is going to go by the new name of Brawn.
Oh,
In
I
other
can
words,
live with that.
the brain with the brawn.
Yeah, I can live with that.
So that's what we have here now. That's why she looks so massively different. Her old armor is gone. Hunt for Wolverine has brought back a 90s villain that I was aware of, but I never really cared about, honestly.
Are we talking about Cyber?
No, I'm talking about Albert.
Albert?
Mm-hmm.
Not familiar with that?
Oh my god, Albert the Robot Wolverine?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Really?
Yeah, one of the miniseries regarding Logan's return to the Marvel Universe is called The Hunt for Wolverine. This is the one that's led by Matt Murdock and Misty Knight as detectives trying to find out where Wolverine's body went. It's one of 3 different groups of characters running around right now following clues. They also have an Inhuman detective named Frank McGee and former X-Man and New Mutant Cypher, who recently had his throat cut by somebody with adamantium claws. It turns out the person who did the cutting was Albert. They were given a false lead and accidentally tracked down a robot that was designed to look exactly like Wolverine by the Reavers as some sort of, I don't know, Rube Goldberg-esque trap.
Yeah, but now, what about his handler?
LCD?
Yes.
LCD, Joanna, is another android created by the Reavers. Albert and Elsie are a 2-pack. Albert was supposed to cause some mayhem in Wolverine's name, which was supposed to draw him in. Elsie looks like a girl of about 10 years old. She was supposed to draw him in as the final trap, because when Wolverine is supposed to try to rescue her, she's supposed to detonate a bomb that's built within her.
Yeah, most of her is bomb.
Yeah.
She's a very small, pink-dressed, overly feminine caricature of a 10-year-old girl.
Right.
And most of her is bomb.
The rub was, in the old 90s adventures, Albert and LCD became very self-aware and didn't want to die, so they just kind of stopped doing what they were doing and ran off to Canada. Murdoch's team ran across Albert from this false lead, and Albert is pissed right now because he's looking for LCD. Someone took her.
So that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's all I've gotten that because I've only read synopsis. I haven't read this mini myself because the group of characters didn't interest me as far as my personal reading.
I sent you an article, Joe, in our Skype chat about Albert, if you want to read it later.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a wacky turn of events I don't think many people were expecting. And another wacky... What?
We tread on each other's lines. That's
Yes.
how we do.
I drive over them. What?
Albert was probably like the apex of the Adam Kubert days, and as surprisingly over the top as it was, I really enjoyed that story. I really did.
Well, another over-the-top thing that's happening is that we've had some new details on new SpiderMan being introduced in the Spider-Geddon storyline, the follow-up to the Spider-Apocalypse. Or Spider-Verse. Sorry, Spider-Verse, that's it. Edge of Spider-Geddon 3 and 4 solicits have been released, and it turns out that one of them will be Ben Parker. He comes from a universe where, yes, Peter was bitten by a radioactive spider, but instead of dying from a gunshot wound, Ben received a blood transfusion from his nephew, so the two of them have very similar abilities.
Is this the Ben Parker that became a recluse afterwards and didn't want to be a hero?
No, it looks like the two of them are playing actually a dynamic duo.
Oh, because I know there is, not Ben Parker, but Uncle Ben. There's an Uncle Ben Spider-Man, and he wears a jacket. He's kind of a thick man. And during the Spider-Verse thing, he was very, very reluctant to get involved in the whole Spider-Verse thing because he didn't want to be a hero, but he got shamed into it.
Oh no, this is more of an active duo type thing. It looks like this Peter Parker is still a relatively young guy. I wouldn't guess he's more than 15, and Ben is I guess you could say the brawn of the duo.
Oh, interesting.
The other one is actually a Norman Osborn Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there
Issue
does
number
he have a
4.
different costume?
Oh, does he ever? It's black and red, and he has 6 arms.
Shoot me that picture.
This Norman Osborn was the one who was bitten by the eponymous radioactive spider, and instead of turning into a villain, he actually did turn into a hero. but his own crusade was turned upside down because his son Harry started wearing a bizarre green armored suit.
So
Huh.
Harry became the Green Goblin?
Yeah, take a look at this image because it's not anything you would normally associate with the
Oh, wow.
with the Spider-Man mythos.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's more of a Spider-Man wearing, for the people that don't really know this, it's a mostly black outfit. He's got 6 arms with red tips on the arms. I say the black fades into red, and his head
It looks
has
like
multiple eyes on it.
it looks like the head has an armor case of some sort.
Yeah, like that's a helmet or something. And then of course there's the red spider logo on his back there. But
Yeah.
wow,
Hmm.
I am going to steal this.
And keep in mind that the writer of the series, I believe, I forgot who's writing Edge of Spider-Geddon, but the writer of the main series, Christos Gage, did say that multiple Spider-Men will die in the upcoming Spider-Geddon.
Hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, they did it last time.
Yeah. It's just a question of
killed a
which ones will
crap load
survive,
last
because this will involve a lot of the survivors of the prior series and now these new characters. And, Marvel's better writers are very careful not to make the newest characters the automatic red shirts.
Yeah, I think this is almost falling into the horror movie trope. When you have a horror movie, or slasher film, more specifically, you have the people that are going to die, then you have the heroes. 1, 2, tops 3 people that are going to survive. But if the movie gets popular, a sequel comes out, and almost like clockwork, those 3 survivors get killed in the sequel.
Yeah.
This is the reason why I tend to read team books over solo hero books. Is just because the solo hero, the odds of him actually dying is fairly low. I mean, if the series is successful, they're not going to do anything to risk taking him off the board without at least setting up a successor. That's very obvious, realistically. Team books, even the more popular characters, you got a decent chance of them going at some point. That's my personal take on it, anyway. But Marvel is introducing another solo series of some sort.
Oh?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
For the first time ever, Shatterstar is getting his own book.
Really?
Just like that, the air falls right out of my sails.
It's being written by, I believe, it's Tim Seeley. It's a new limited series. It's coming out in October. The art's going to be done by Carlos Villa. According to Seeley's own statement on Marvel.com, quote, "I was 12 years old when I first saw Shatterstar in the pages of New Mutants, and I was the perfect age to be intrigued by him. This dude's an alien gladiator, and within pages of us meeting him, he stabs himself with his own swords in order to kill the bad guy standing right behind him," unquote.
I have to say the best Shatterstar writing was Peter David. And that's when they really, really focused on the fact that he's pansexual.
I actually like Tim Seeley's take here, because when he was asked to describe his pitch for the series, Seeley said, "It's going to be steeped in the X-Men mythology with a little John Wick tossed in as an added bonus." The exact quote was, "When the life he built crumbles, Shatterstar is forced to ask himself if he ever truly gave up the gladiator ring. The series will be part John Wick, a dash of Will Eisner's A Contract with God, and infused with lots of interdimensional X-Men superhero mythos," unquote.
Sounds good.
It sounds intriguing. He said he was going to draw inspiration from a lot of the classic X-Men stories from the 80s and 90s, including work from Shatterstar's creators, Nazia and Liefeld, the same people who created Deadpool.
Okay, half of that was okay. The other half made me want to die.
Look, as long as he's not wearing that giant padded helmet he had at his introduction, I can deal with that.
Yeah, and when
Yeah.
he was in X Factor with Peter David, he had a great looking outfit. It was like basically a white pants, white jacket, and he had his swords that turned into like these blades on either side of his hands that ejected out of his jacket sleeve.
It's still the same costume, except now the swords are back to being double-handled pommel swords.
Oh. Well, I hope that they've taken some cues from Peter David, because he made a cliche, lame-o character from the 90s into actually something with substance.
Wow, it's kind of interesting that you bring that up, because the last story in the Marvel Comics news was the surprise reveal in the new volume of Astonishing X-Men.
Oh, you're talking about Banshee?
Yeah, the return of the Irishman.
I
Because
was really excited about that.
He wasn't
I
in
love
any
Banshee.
covers or solicits, but he popped up right at the end of the first issue there, and he has not been seen since the first volume of Uncanny Avengers.
Yeah, he was
He
he was
was
undead for a while, wasn't he?
he still technically is. He was in Beast's lab trying to overcome the influences of the Apocalypse Seed that was given to him to turn him into one of the four horsemen of death in that series.
Oh,
Because
okay.
some characters don't deal with that well. For some reason, Gambit seems to have ejected the whole thing from his body. As we know, Angel is still suffering the effects of it.
Well, actually, they fixed him in the end, almost the end of Astonishing X-Men.
They did not fix him only because Xavier or X undid half the things he did to all those characters with the exception of Psylocke.
He did?
Yeah, that was part of the mind
Dang.
wipe. They don't remember what happened to him or any of the circumstances of the fight. They just have these vague psychic suggestions now. And X said he only left Psylocke with full memories as a countermeasure against himself.
Wow.
Apparently I need to read that because I'm not really sure as to why he would have done that.
Neither am I. It's a very bizarre thing to do, to take, 6 out of 8 members of that team, give them the tools they need to be better people, and then take about 75% of that back. I don't get the move.
It's it's a strange world I live in when I'm sitting here typing and I'm trying to figure out how do you spell Spider-Geddon? Is it with an H?
No, there's no H in there, but there is a hyphen. But
Yeah,
anyway,
there's always a hyphen.
yeah. But anyway, Banshee is the surprise, and man, he has had a rough go of it since he died. But at least now we get a chance for more story here.
Yeah, and I loved Banshee even when he didn't have powers, which was a couple of times actually.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest stumper for Sean Cassidy, but at the same time, I recognize the legacy and the possibility.
I think they made a big mistake when they made X-Core way back in the day, because it was such a drastic change in personality on him.
I don't think it was that big of a mistake. Well, generally that whole era in the early aughts was a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, he just went from being, this headmaster for Generation X to, okay, now I'm the leader of this military unit and fuck everybody and we're gonna kill these people and, goddamn, Sean, slow down.
Well, now we have DC Comic News. We talk about the characters and intellectual properties owned by AT&T and what they're doing in the comic book pages now and in the near future. Brian Michael Bendis is teasing plans for the Martian Manhunter.
Ooh.
As part of his Superman thing?
Apparently, it's part of his plans for his period of writing within Superman. It's not Martian Manhunter, excuse me. It's the character of Manhunter.
Oh,
Kate
Eric, what's his name in the red or is it the woman?
It's the woman, Kate Spencer.
I like her better.
Oh, okay.
The character is a bit maligned in DC, not because they've done anything mean to her, but I always feel like Manhunter gets the short shrift because, I don't think writers enjoy the idea of this character who is a lawyer, a prosecutor technically, who goes out and beats up criminals and half the time doesn't seem to speak too much. They always seem to be at a bit of a loss as to what to do with her, which is kind of odd because it's pretty much a story of Daredevil.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she does well mixing in on other people's books I've seen, because she's usually like the anti-hero antagonist in a lot of stories that she's involved in because, she doesn't tend to play by their rules.
Yeah. Let's see. Bendis was on comicbook.com recently. He said, quote, Mark is the writer of Supergirl, which comes right out of some plot points we laid down in the Man of Steel 5 and 6. He's working with my dear friend, Kevin Maguire, so it's two dear friends that I'm excited to have are having such a good time working together. They were friends that didn't know each other, and now they know each other, and I knew they'd love each other, and they do, and it's fun to watch. Mark literally just stands there and stares at me and goes, bring Manhunter back. Bring Manhunter back. So we're working on Manhunter. Somehow, some way, Manhunter is finding her way into something, unquote.
Well, it'd be the first time we've seen her since, even before New 52, I think.
I don't recall seeing the character in so long. It's one of those names I know, but I can't even tell you the last time I saw her.
It's been years. I saw her as a backup character in a story where she was definitely not friendly with the main character, and I can't remember who that main character was.
I want to say the last time I saw her was during one of those periods in the early 2000s when they were trying to revamp the JSA with another group of second-generation characters.
She showed up within the past 6 years. I'll say within the past 7 years as a guest star.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question because you decided to write the review about it. How was the Batman not wedding issue?
Yeah.
Hey,
You
if
know,
you've listened to the show or read the news in the past week and a half, everybody already knows what this is about.
yeah. Of course, now I start coughing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by now, almost everybody knows that, news got dropped to, what is it, CNN or Associated Press said, hey, by the way,
I think it was the New York
Catwoman
Times.
ran off on him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the New York Times, but go ahead.
New York Times, yeah, one of those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the thing. Catwoman was going to leave, and people was like, oh, it spoils the issue. It ruins the book. But it didn't. Honestly, the whole book was this... like I said in the review, the whole book is completely shared right down the middle between the two characters, and it really is about their journeys. On Bruce's side is like, I'm doing this almost mundane thing, and when I say mundane, I'm not using the right adjective, but it's just that so uncharacteristic of him. He's doing something happy. He's doing something that has nothing to do with crime or his building of the mask of Bruce. He's even going so far as it's like he's getting married in secret on top of a rooftop because you can't know that Bruce and Batman are both married because of the identity away. And on the other side, you've got Catwoman going through her thing, and she frees her best friend Holly. And this actually got my attention because and I know that the two books are completely separate, and I know that neither one of them had any idea what was going on. But you had the Kitty Pryde and the Colossus thing going on over here, and then a month later you got the Batman thing, and both weddings are ruined by the bride's blonde best friend saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
But the difference is though, Magic said that in a moment of weakness to Kitty Pryde and wished she could take it back. Holly, over in D.C., talking to Catwoman, purposefully broke up this wedding at the behest of her master, for lack of a better term.
Right, and it made it sound like she just said it as an offhand thing, but she didn't. But then, you know what? That last image leaves me scratching my head. It makes me wonder if Holly isn't seeing things.
I don't think
Batman
she is
in that crowd.
Not the Batman. The Flashpoint Batman is.
Oh.
That's Thomas Wayne for some reason back there.
Has he been in the issues? I just didn't know because keep in mind I have not been reading Batman.
He has only appeared in the Flash Batman crossover in the early part of Rebirth where they briefly visited the Flashpoint universe just before it supposedly collapsed. We thought that was the last time we were going to see the Flashpoint Batman, but for some reason, or it may not be the same guy, it may be some other version from the multiverse, but he was in the back of that crowd.
Yeah, so that's what made me think that she was tripping.
No, she's not.
Because it seemed like she had Batman there. I'm like, okay, obviously Holly really does belong in Arkham, and she felt the need to do this.
Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely just because of what she was surrounded by. You have Bane on a throne of skulls, and next to her, or surrounding him, is the Riddler, the Joker, the Psycho Pirate, Gotham Girl, the ventriloquist with Scarface, the Flashpoint Batman, Skeets, and someone else is there.
Yeah, see, all of that confused me. Like, why the hell is Gotham Girl there? Why the hell is Skeets there?
Oh, Hugo Strange was the other one. Gotham Girl? Who knows? I mean, she still partially blames Batman for the death of her brother, which he did do, but he was responsible for by convincing Gotham Girl to fight him. Skeets may have a personal beef with Batman because of all the pain Booster Gold is going through in his attempt at a wedding gift. The Flashpoint Batman is really the biggest mystery to me, and I think that's why I didn't really pick up the book. Wasn't really the similarity between the Batman wedding and the X-Men wedding, which just happened to coincide by about 2 weeks. I think what irritated me the most was that, for some reason somebody decided to tease the idea of Bruce Wayne being happy and how that could change the story, and here Bruce Wayne has been elated all the way through his, his engagement period. Really the only difference would have been just the I do's. They're already practically living together, working together. The families are relatively integrated. So I don't see why this moment should really change Oh, I guess what I'm trying to say is we now see what Bruce Wayne is like happy. What would the wedding have really changed by then?
You know what? I think this really came down to dealing with fans and the idea that the hero cannot be happy for very long. The whole Whedon-esque idea that no one stays happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
And-
like that.
I'm not a fan of it either because I want my heroes to be happy at some point. You know, they don't need to constantly suffer or die or have the people die around them just to keep my attention.
Yeah, I think we discussed it last week. I like it when the dynamics of a character's story change, and this would be the first time Bruce Wayne had been I wouldn't even say happy. I would just say a less grim character since the early 90s, and I would like to see what that is.
Right.
Yeah, but the other aspect of the issue, and what took up like 50% of it, was a series of pinups done by numerous other artists. Name one, they're in there. Frank Miller, Jim Lee, they're all in there. And around it seems to be almost a soliloquy of one character talking to the other. And you don't really find out till the end that all the words that you're reading are part of letters that either both of them wrote each other, but that neither one of them have seen. So Bruce wrote this big long letter to Selena Kyle, but then he decided not to give it to her. Selena wrote this big long letter to Bruce and left it for him, but he never found it. So, yeah.
Well, what were you going to say? Because I was about to move on.
No, yeah, I mean, we're really just kind of paraphrasing my review at this point. I liked the art. I really did like the art. I understood where the thing was going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that the issue wasn't so deeply hooked on Catwoman leaving and more talking about why. And the question that we're debating here, if Bruce can be happy, and what the fuck is Holly up to, you know? So there's things that we still could have absorbed as a reader that we weren't spoiled by in the New York Times.
I don't know. I just don't think the last panel really makes up for the spoiling of the story and just the accidental synergy of that and the Marvel
keep in
stuff.
mind, I'm not saying something excuses another.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it wasn't a complete train wreck because of it.
Well, I'm just saying it wasn't enough, really, for me. If the story hadn't been told already in the news about what the ending was, then I would have been intrigued. But the fact that we already knew 90% of the story going in, that's a disappointment. But
True.
John Cunningham, DC's senior vice president of sales, offered a 5-point response on a private comics retailer's Facebook group about why the publisher spoiled Batman number 50 on its own. The 5 points they listed out are, number 1, DC sales strongly advocated getting the news out ahead of the OSD so that the moment of realization did not occur hours before events began. We even did our level best to try and spoil it here on this page over and over again and failed. The New York Times article was posted here at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, not out of pride, please, but to get you the information as soon as we could. Number 2, in the abstract, we believe the news would break on Monday morning given the arrival time of physical copies in store and the reality that a copy or scan would end up being passed to uncontrolled comic book outlets, much like Marvel's wedding issue last week and every other major comic book event in the last decade. 3, as mentioned here before, any discussion about financial remedies for problematic DC product must occur after the product is on sale. 4, while the Times piece is more fulsome than some might like, it does not spoil the shock ending of the book for fans. We're working on getting this posted here for you. And 5, I stand by my belief that Batman number 50 is one of the best single-issue periodicals of the last decade, that it is a special moment in comic book history, and that if it's not the book we think we want, it's the book we need. Okay, minus points for the Batman pun there, for frick's sakes.
Yeah. It's a good issue, you know, and that's coming from a non-Batman fan.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy all of this. I mean, I grant you that, yeah, Marvel had a problem and the storyline of the Kitty Pryde Colossus wedding got out, but DC hadn't had that problem, but somehow they still felt they did.
You know, I don't want to be a DC apologist at this point. I mean, I can see some of their points coming from a marketing point of view that I don't know jack shit about.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that it was a mistake, and they should just let
They should have just sold the issue and let things come as they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The final battle between Rogol Zar and Superman has been decided in the Man of Steel miniseries by Brian Michael Bendis. And it turns out it does actually lead into another ongoing series in DC. But it's not a new series. Superman actually wasn't the decider of the fight between the two. Supergirl was.
Really?
Now, is this that big hulking bounty hunter type dude that said he destroyed Krypton?
Yeah, he's not a bounty hunter. He's one of a group of ancient creatures. Almost like the DC equivalent to the Elders of the Universe.
Ah.
And he saw Krypton as a threat. He thought their people, if given enough time and power, apparently anyway, could become a serious threat to the well-being of the universe, so he wanted to cull it before it could be such a problem. Apparently the other elders didn't quite agree with him, but he went ahead with it anyway. At least that's what he's claiming. The exact story of the destruction of Krypton is still kind of up in the air at this point. But what makes this different is, you know how Superman stories usually go. He encounters a villain, sometimes can outpower him or at least match him punch for punch. Other characters get involved, but they get knocked out of the way while he finishes the fight, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, while Superman is still toying with a question as to whether or not this being was responsible for the death of Krypton, Supergirl showed up with the Phantom Zone projector and put Rogol Zar in it.
That's what you do, when you deal with this guy's shit.
Yeah. As Bendis himself put it, Superman was asking questions, then he was going to go for the resolution. Supergirl went for the resolution and figures the questions can come later.
Well,
True
she's not
story.
wrong.
I didn't say she was wrong. I'm just saying this is very different from most other Superman stories. Most writers like to portray Superman as the strongest being in their pantheon of heroes, but in this case, he was questioning himself so much that somebody else came in and just solved the problem for him, which is a bit of a different tack, at least for DC. And this is leading into the new Supergirl series, the one we saw the different outfits that Supergirl's going to wear in her adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's because, in addition to everything else, the bottle city of Kandor was destroyed in this story.
Uh-oh.
Like the last living vestige of Krypton was destroyed, and that affects her very deeply because, unlike her cousin, she wasn't a baby when the planet was destroyed.
Right. She had actual memories of it.
Yeah, and it's gone, and now she wants direct answers as to whether or not this thing actually destroyed her planet, so that's why she's taking an intergalactic trip and wearing a number of different outfits that may help her fit in on different worlds.
Cool.
So it almost sounds like, in addition to a Superman story, this is kind of a Supergirl coming-of-age story.
I
I'll
wonder if
read
that
it.
means they'll rename her.
No. I mean, at least they're giving her back something closer to her classic comic book outfit rather than an approximation of the TV outfit.
That's true.
And
That TV outfit could use some polish.
I would like it more if they would brighten the color some. I don't mind the stockings, but if they would at least make it a solid blue, I would feel better about it. Her wandering around in thigh-high red boots and stockings, it almost feels like a parody that should be in, a themed restaurant or something.
Yeah, her
I think
boots
that-
bother me.
Yeah, she should have, just leggings.
Yeah.
Like part of the costume.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I don't mind
yellow behind that shield. Gotta put yellow behind the shield.
Right, I don't mind a touch of sexuality in my costume, but for some reason on her, a character that powerful but still runs into characters that are that much stronger than she is, you would think she'd have a little more protection on her legs.
I don't think it's really so much the protection. I just don't think that the thigh-high boots work in a live-action environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that's
the little part that goes over the knee is always flapping around, and it's distracting. I don't know if I'm the only one that
Yeah.
notices this.
No, I notice it too, and it's exactly the point I'm making.
Yeah.
Especially when she's running, and I'm just like, why? Why this? Anyway.
The costume was one of the reasons I gave up on the series towards the end of season 2. I mean, when I saw the design for Rain, I'm just like, okay, I know they're trying this on a budget, but that's not enough for me. That was not enough. Last up in DC comic news, they finally debuted Harley Quinn's new storyline in her ongoing series.
Okay.
She's a female Fury now.
Oh, did we talk about this like a month ago?
No, actually. We talked about this about 3 months ago when we were putting together the pilot for this series and trying to test it out.
Oh, yeah.
Harley Quinn has been recruited by Granny Goodness to be one of the latest female enforcers of Darkseid's army on Apocalypse. The way the story goes is that Harley is already pretty crazy, but when you put her on a planet full of homicidal people, she might be the sanest one there. Or at the very least, she's going to fit in very well when she arrives. They gave her a giant honking hammer that gives her these cosmic-style abilities, including flight, which almost made her seem like a joke of the Jane Foster Thor at the time. But with the first issue, we found out something else. The hammer pings when she's looking for information. The hammer may have a mother box in it.
Well, if it's pinging, yeah.
And I say may because it is giving her answers. I just don't know if it's like an Alexa-style relay or if it's an active mother box in there.
Alexa Hammer, where's Batman? Behind you.
No!
You know, I have no problems with the story. I think it's an interesting way to go for the character. I just wish they could have found her a better name.
Yeah.
No, do you know what they're calling her?
No.
Mm,
You told me a while back.
No, I didn't know until the issue came out last week.
God, my memory is really sketchy on this one.
somebody said it, and I thought it was weird.
They're calling her Hammer Harleen.
Yeah, I'm not
That
okay
sounds
with
like
that.
a Fury name. That's a Fury name.
It
No,
sounds
it
like
sounds like a roller derby name.
to
Have
me
you
it's
not seen the female Furies?
I don't know. To me it sounded like discount night at a bad strip club.
No, the female Furies look and sound like a roller derby group.
Maybe that's what they're based on.
Maybe.
Ah,
I mean,
They're tough.
Machina.
Crowd.
They're more. They actually
Yeah.
sound more like the extras from the Grapplers. Remember the Grapplers from Marvel?
No.
Titania and Letha and Pound Cakes.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Not ringing a bell.
No.
Well, really, they were just people for Scourge to kill in the 80s.
Ah.
I see. Last up is general comic and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that have nothing to do with Marvel or DC, but we also talk about conventions happening all around the world. I'm going to start with a little bit of a sad story, and I didn't expect it. It came out late last week that late in June, one of the co-creators of Spider-Man, Steve Ditko, passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that.
You know what? Oh, God, I know I'm gonna catch some flack for this one. I'm gonna catch some flack for this one, but I'm still gonna do it. Ditko was not exactly a fan-friendly kind of guy, and
Okay, you
on
can shut
top
up
of
now.
that-
Okay.
but he had a long life.
Well,
He
it's
was
not
90
that
years old.
it's not that he
Yeah,
wasn't
really.
fan-friendly. He had a very big public blow-up with Marvel back in the day. And after that, he became a bit of a recluse. He continued writing and doing art, but he didn't do it for either of the big two companies after that.
Oh, well, no. Every time I heard something about him in the press, and maybe that's just because of that, and maybe because, you know, you look at the press to find out, hey, where are my creators at these days? And every time I saw stuff from Steve Ditko, it was negative, and he was angry, and he was bitter, and he was using his old art to work on for his tools. He had no real respect for the art that he had, and it's like, damn.
Well,
Why?
he never detailed what the issue was specifically, but it was something to do with Marvel and Stan Lee. None of the parties ever opened up about what the direct issue was. But even after the blow-up, Ditko continued creating after he did Spider-Man and helped create Doctor Strange back in the 60s. He worked at Charlton and DC Comics. Some of his most famous Bronze Age co-creations are Speedball and Squirrel Girl. At DC, Ditko did create The Question, The Creeper, Shade, The Changing Man, and Hawk and Dove.
And if I'm not mistaken, he actually had a project going on that had dealt with neither one of the companies, and it was I think it was a crowd-funded trade paperback that he was working on.
He was always
With somebody.
He was always doing independent series. I mean, even at Charlton, he helped create the Blue Beetle and Captain Atom, which became DC characters after they were bought out.
I want to get the name of this while we're talking about it. Nah. I'm looking it up, and all I'm getting is his memoriams. I'm not getting the news I need about this.
Yeah, it's just really sad. I mean, the man was a creative force. He made a number of characters that have endured.
And, don't get me wrong. He is. I mean, he created the Spider-Man look that we all absorbed, and I guess it's just because every time I ever saw the man's name, it was negative, and it was hard for me to feel good if every time I saw him, it was about how he thumbed his nose at talking to somebody, or how he doesn't really care about his previous work, or it was just a real negative vibe coming off of it.
Well, they found his cause of death just a few days ago, actually. At 90 years old, the technical term is an arteriosclerotic and hyperintensive cardiovascular disease. In layman's terms, he had a heart attack caused by serious clogged arteries.
Well, like I said, he had a really long life. If we're all lucky enough, we'll live, to be 90 years old.
Yeah, wish me luck. I'm about to wrestle somebody. Now that we're within 10 days, literally, of San Diego Comic-Con, a lot of announcements have come out in regards to panels upcoming. Marvel decided to release an entire slate of panels that they're going to host at the upcoming convention, and it includes a lot of pretty major creators. I'm not going to give them all to you because that might bore you, but there is going to be one panel dedicated to just Spider-Man comics that includes editor Nick Lowe, Nick Spencer from Amazing Spider-Man, Donny Cates from Venom, and Cates also lays out what may happen with the Edge of Spider-Geddon upcoming. There's also a Marvel 20th anniversary of the Marvel Knights, and Jimmy Palmiotti is one of the people that's going to be in that panel.
Does that mean they're going to blow the dust off of that?
I don't know. It's supposed to be a retrospective, but you know how it is with San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody likes to have some kind of surprise at their panels.
Yeah, isn't Marvel also doing a panel for their animation project? Like, what's the name of that new, mostly female super team that they're animating?
I want to say that's called Marvel Rising.
Yeah, that's it.
I didn't see anything for that in particular. I mean, the only other thing I could talk about here that wouldn't take a lot of time is there is an X-Men focus panel on the last day of the convention, Sunday the 22nd. And, man, Casey, if you were in town, I think you'd try to drop by this one.
Why?
The writer of Cena Grace, or the writer of Iceman, Cena Grace, will be there, in addition to Shauna Maguire from the X-Men Gold Annual, Matthew Rosenberg from Astonishing X-Men, and Tom Taylor, the writer of X-Men Red.
Oh, yeah, I would like that.
That's a good cast.
That is a good one. I was lucky enough.
No, hang
I
on.
was down there.
Hang on. At this panel, they're also going to reveal secrets of a new X-Men team. It looks like they're going to announce they're probably going to announce what's taking over from X-Men Gold and Blue. They're ending in September.
I bet you it's uncanny.
That's my guess, anyway.
I think that's a solid, safe guess.
So I like a lot of what I read there. Also, G. Willow Wilson will be in attendance, but she's not going to be there as a Marvel alumnus. She's going on behalf of Dark Horse Comics.
Oh, what is she showcasing?
I'm not entirely sure. She's supposed to be at the Dark Horse booth on the morning of Saturday the 21st, but under project it just says TBA. I know she's been working on prose novels recently as well, but that doesn't sound like Dark Horse. She may be getting ready to introduce some new creator-owned property. I'd say she's earned the right to do so, man. Her creation of Kamala Khan has gone over gangbusters with the comic book universe.
Absolutely. I would love to talk to that person.
Yeah, I'd say she's earned the right to write. She's earned the ability to write whatever she wants.
Yeah. Oh God, I was talking about how great Miss Marvel Comics is, especially with young adults, to a parent friend of mine. And when I was going to show them, it's like, hey, this is what the trade paperbacks look. This is what you really should be looking for. And I looked it up, and the trade paperback I was looking on for Amazon was #1 on trade paperbacks in comics. It was the top-selling trade paperback at that moment. Like, damn.
Nice.
Yeah, so, yeah, she's earned it.
There's one other announcement that's kind of making me scratch my head. As I said at the beginning of the show, I'm back from the Anime Expo last weekend, and there were a few things in regards to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super, but not a whole lot of information at the convention. It turns out there's going to be a Hall H panel for Dragon Ball Super at San Diego Comic-Con.
Which made you absolutely thrilled, I'm sure.
Well, I'm not a fan of the series. I couldn't really care either way. I'm just more or less confused as to why all this anime-related stuff, including the first North American appearance by the creator of My Hero Academia, is going on at San Diego Comic-Con, but they couldn't be bothered to get to Anime Expo. It makes me wonder who's mad at what, But
I remember we talked about this.
yeah, but they are talking about the San Diego Comic-Con Dragon Ball Super panel because they want to debut never-before-seen material from the new movie upcoming.
Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe it's just a bigger platform than the anime convention.
It's a bigger single venue than anything Anime Expo has. Hall H seats 6,500 people, but I wouldn't exactly call that a focused forum of Dragon Ball fans. There's anime fans of all
Maybe
kinds,
they're
but
looking to expand.
I don't know. I think there's other places to expand rather than this. Because unfortunately, let me just finish this thought. It's Sunday of the convention in the morning. Half the people that are going to the convention are packing their stuff up and throwing it in cars.
Yeah. Now, but back to what you were saying earlier about the Marvel stuff at the convention.
Mm-hmm.
We know that MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, is going to be skipping out on San Diego this year for whatever reason.
Well, Marvel Studios but Marvel Entertainment still has some kind of presence.
Right, and what I'm hearing here from the press release is they're going to focus on Cloak and Dagger, Legion, The Gifted, Iron Fist, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Marvel Rising.
That's the known stuff, but it doesn't count out any particular or potential surprises. Like the Iron Fist panel, It wouldn't be unheard of for Kristen Ritter to show up to plug the ongoing production on Jessica Jones, per se. Things like that.
Yes! And I'm going to go with a segue of my own because I saw some stuff because they're filming season 3 of Jessica Jones right now.
Oh, do you mean the fact that her co-star was supposedly seen in Hellcat outfits?
Yes. You just had to trump me on that one, didn't you?
I just wanted to see if I was headed in the right direction.
Well, actually, it's related. I didn't see any Hellcat costumes, but I saw a lot of wire work training that she was doing.
Okay. I saw a report that said that the lady who plays it, and I'm sorry, I forget her name, she was seen on set in a yellow leotard.
Oh, cool. Now, what I saw was just normal clothes. She was doing a wall vault and a long jump. Long jump, obviously, was wire assisted.
Okay. Last up in general comic and convention news, and I know it's very Comic-Con focused, but honestly, there's only 2 more opportunities for us to discuss it before the convention happens anyway. AMC has announced that they've replaced Chris Hardwick in his Hall H presentation duties for their panel. They are bringing in known Walking Dead superfan Yvette Nicole Brown.
From Community. I love her.
Yeah, I've seen her on Talking Dead. She's very lively and she's a good conversationalist on the series.
Yeah, she loves Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm not commenting on whether Hardwick did or did not do anything he's been talked about. I'm just saying that this is a good replacement, frankly. If they had to pick somebody, I'm glad they picked somebody who enjoys the show.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And believe it or not, that's all the news I got. I figure a lot of comic book companies are keeping their announcements on the down low both this week and next simply because the biggest forum for comic books is about to happen. And that draws us right into our subject of the week, and that is the first 6 issues of the Punisher War Machine storyline from Marvel Comics. The writer of it is Matthew Rosenberg. The artist is Guiu Villanova, Guiu. I'm sure I got that wrong. The colors are by Lee Lowridge, and the letters are by VC's Corey Pettit. This is a story where Frank Castle has been recruited to stop an incursion in a foreign country, and he was bequeathed the War Machine armor, or at least told to steal it anyway, as part of his mission. And it really doesn't get more complicated than that.
Yeah. It becomes pretty clear as to why they needed him to have that armor once he gets there.
It was pretty well laid out in the first issue why he would potentially need it. I mean, he was dealing with people that were pseudo-military trained and definitely armed the same.
Yeah.
But, the first issue wasn't exactly a big lead-in for me. I mean, I guess we can start with the artwork because that was consistent throughout. It wasn't necessarily good or bad in my opinion. It had its good points, it had its bad points.
Well,
I don't think it detracted from the story.
I'm going to let... oh, God, do I want to do this? Yeah, I'm going to do this. When you're dealing with this kind of comic book art, when you're dealing with power armor, be it Iron Man or whatever other armored hero you're going to have, you got to find an artist who can do detail. because that's what armored hero fans want to see. They want to see the armor looking sleek, badass, detailed, all the little nicks and crannies looking pretty. You don't get a scrub to do an Iron Man set, and that's what they did. I mean, this art was great for Punisher. If he never put on that armor, I was like, okay, cool. We're gonna see a couple of heads detonate. It's gonna be a good time. But then you put the armor on. I'm like, why couldn't have it just been like what I saw on the cover? Because that's what sucked me into this whole thing. I saw the cover and I was like, wow, that looks fantastic. I open it up, and it's just clunky and stupid looking.
Well, the cover's by Clayton Crane. I loved his work in the X-Force and what was it? That was the Return of Ghost Rider series. But
his covers were great.
Yeah. And I admit, at the end of the first issue, when the Punisher got the War Machine armor, he didn't look like he was wearing armor so much as he was wearing a training suit for dogs, maybe a bear suit.
Yeah, it looked like a padded SWAT suit. I was actually talking to Joanna about this right before we started recording, that he looked like he was wearing a padded SWAT suit with like bulky arm bracers and padded this and all. It's like, that's not Stark Tech. That's not what I came here for.
Are you kidding? I almost expected him after he blew that door off to look at the soldiers and ask them, "Tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did I hurt you?"
Yeah, Joe, you want to weigh in on this one, because I know you had opinions.
Yeah, I was disappointed again that the cover art was really awesome. I got into it and I was like, wait, where are the details? I mean, first of all, there needed to be bigger cannons and the guns that come off of the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, it's War Machine. Where's...
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there's explosions, but I kind of wanted more out of it. But the details on the suit were horribly lacking. I was super disappointed, and I do agree with Casey on this one. It was underwhelming, so I said, okay, maybe they're going to do upgrades in the middle. Maybe something will happen to the suit where they have to fix it, and then they get better. And I was disappointed again. But besides that, the rest of it's okay.
The writing is fine. I mean, the dialogue of the different characters sounds pretty distinct until you get into the army. Then somehow they all sound like the same generic Russian actor.
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy the writing, and I especially liked the scene where he came up on the concentration camp and knocked on a door and simply told them, "Let me in."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are you kidding?" And then he busts the door down and he goes, "You really should have listened to me."
I believe he says, "Throw down your weapons and surrender and open the gates," or something like that. And they're like, "What?" And he just rips the door open. Yeah, well.
Yeah. You know what? I have another beef with this. I know I've already talked about how much I dislike the art. But you know what? The colorist is also at fault here. Because War Machine, Punisher, what are you thinking? You're thinking black, you're thinking white. You're thinking the disparity. I don't know. What's the disparity? What's that word when I'm talking about? The
Gradients?
No. Well, I'm at a lack of a proper word. But just the aesthetic of black on white, because I can't remember the word.
I think the word would be gradient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or color correlation.
Whatever. But that's what I came here for. And so the colorist made him gray, and then gray on gray with white. And like that. No, you could have fixed this whole detail issue, at least for me, just by coloring him black. And I couldn't do that. I don't know why colorists and artists are so afraid of black costumes that they have to make them blue here and gray there. I mean, Van Sciver, I hope I said his name right, from Green Lantern, is well known for not being afraid of making things solid black and still making them work. I don't know.
Except in
why
his
other
Twitter
artists can't
feed,
do
he
that.
avoids solid black, but that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing. But when it came down to drawing Green Lantern and drawing that nice color and that stark black, it just worked. And I didn't give a shit if I didn't see where his kneecap was.
You know what? I thought the art worked fine outside of the armor. A lot of the colors look bleak when we're dealing with these cold Slavic landscapes. It actually did seem cold and a little bit dreary everywhere.
Right, it's a mood setting.
Yeah. And his faces were pretty good. I did wish he didn't try to make the comic book Punisher look so much like John Barenthal with a facelift.
Yeah.
You know, you could see where he was trying there, and I appreciated the try, but it didn't seem like he developed the character in a way where it fit his artwork. Some people understand that when you're trying to make somebody look like a celebrity, you still have to add your own touches to make sure that you're not stretching into a place you're uncomfortable, and I don't think he knew where to stop.
Mhm.
No. Oh, by the
That's
word,
fair.
the word I was looking for was contrast.
Okay.
Contrast. Okay.
And, yeah, I mean, even though he's well adept for most of this Punisher action, I didn't have a problem with that. But, yeah, the artist really didn't seem to have much of a concept of what to do with power armor most of the time.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it's just me, but bad comic and an art will make me angry. And I know that sometimes when we do these reviews and I'm talking about the art, and when it's really bad, I just go on a rant.
Okay, don't give me this sometimes crap.
You
I
don't
just-
want to see him when he's angry.
Oh, I mean, ever since I was a kid and I saw bad art, I was like, God damn it, why did it have to be this month? Why did it have to be my comic? Why did it have to be this time?
You know,
Why did I have to pay $1.25 for crappy art again?
moving from the first issue, number 218, into 219, it pretty much highlighted a problem I had with this story. And it's a mechanical problem. By that, I mean, you knew as soon as the Punisher obtained the War Machine armor, he was going to outclass 95% of the things he ran across on this mission he's on.
Right.
Mhm.
And boy, he spent the next two issues, yes, it highlighted what he's capable of, but when you have something capable of, standing toe-to-toe with the Hulk for at least a few minutes versus a regular human army, it's pretty obvious who's going to win.
You're literally gonna shred them with your bare hands,
Mm-hmm.
which was a cool scene, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's because they made it pretty clear in the first few issues, or the first part of the second issue, he didn't know how to work this thing. He wasn't aware how to get the
Yeah.
weapons to fire.
Yeah.
And
Or dial back on the strength.
I did enjoy the former Slavic army man he came across who just asked him, "Did you turn off the safeties?" This thing doesn't have safeties. Every weapon has safeties.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, he made short work of them.
Yeah, it was frustratingly short work. I mean, when he's taking on entire building, that's something. But in 219, when he's taking on two small squads, oh, wow, that's something Tony Stark does with a flick of his finger. And yeah, it took Frank Castle a little longer with older Stark Tech armor, but still, it was a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of counting those minutes.
Well, I like the fact that they actually gave him the problem of learning a new suit, and they even said, they don't in the field with equipment they don't know how to use. What's your problem, kind of thing.
Right.
I like that was kind of a foil for him, because there are lots of movies and books and storylines where hero picks up weapon and is automatically perfect at it, and that drives me nuts. You're like, no, where's the safety? Where's this? Where's that? And they actually made it part of the story. Yes, he should have probably had a little bit more of a struggle to kind of balance out all the destruction, but I think for story's sake that they just kind of condensed it.
Yeah, they condensed a lot of things. It's like the former soldier in the second issue he befriended, Vaca, before he died. I was upset that the character died that quickly. We just got introduced to him and he's already gone. And I was also frustrated because it seemed like Vaca might be the first road that Castle could essentially obtain to some sort of peace in his life. And obviously he can't keep that, otherwise, the whole story of the Punisher falls apart pretty quickly. But
Right.
they really didn't spend any time exploring that before they, for lack of a better term, put him in the fridge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The hero can't be happy. Remember, kids?
Yep.
Frank Castle and
I
Bruce
love-
Wayne should have the same therapist.
I love Whedon, but goddamn, did he make life rough for life characters?
The third issue, 220, again, it was better because he was taking on larger groups of people, but it was essentially more of the same. By the third issue, I was really just kind of waiting for someone else in power armor to show up.
Right, because you knew they would.
Yeah. They telegraphed a little too well what Frank should be looking for when he was tasked to hunt down former S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Right.
What did you guys think of the design of these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents? I thought it was weird that their armor looked like cheap versions of War Machine, even though they're about 20 years newer.
I think that they would have looked a little bit more sleek and streamlined, maybe a little bit more technologically advanced. Like the cloaking shield was cool,
Mhm.
but I feel like they should have more aesthetically, And again, I think it's the artist. The issue is in the artist's interpretation.
Right. I thought the Shield versions of Power Armor, they look like something out of the old Knights of the Round Table cartoon, or maybe the Super Pro series from Marvel back in the day.
Yeah, there was something seriously lacking with them, and I was actually kind of confused by the logo that they use on the top there.
Oh, it's an upside down shield symbol.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
I kept staring at it. I was like, is it Hammer? No, it's not Hammer.
Are you
green?
okay? Because I thought that was pretty obvious, like, as soon as I saw them.
I was just dyslexic enough to have seen that and kind of caught what it was.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
keep in
that
mind,
helps.
I read this on e-comics on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that tiny little detail was like, I got to get out the grandpa glasses to look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can expand it.
In case we didn't mention it before, Nick Fury gave Frank Castle this mission and gave him the location of the War Machine armor, so that he could hunt down S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who, after the fall or the ending of S.H.I.E.L.D. really, defected to the country they were originally just supposed to be monitoring. And part of their defection was the fact that they turned the S.H.I.E.L.D. symbol on their armor upside down and then painted a bird symbol around it.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
So it was just this symbology. And yeah, unfortunately the armor it looks oddly stripped down. I know it would be sleeker than the War Machine, but it just doesn't look necessarily like armor. It looks like another bunch of bear suits.
Yeah.
I gotta say this just because, goddamn. Somebody at Marvel probably looked at this entire series going,
oh yeah,
"Goddamn."
this passed an editor at some point.
Yeah, so but somebody at Marvel clearly looked at this issue like around 5 or 6 and going, "We really got this guy drawing this? Okay, that stops now." Because he continues on having this armor past the 6 issues that we're looking in here, and he goes into another series called Punisher War Criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book, they substitute the artist with a guy who actually can draw power armor. Now, the colors still drop the ball, but the armor actually looks like armor now.
Yay.
So we have that. I'm not saying that we're going to review that because, goddamn, I'm not doing that again. But the guy that got to fill in is Stefano Landini. Do you know him?
I know the name. I can't remember from where.
Well, it looks more like armor. He's still not drawing detail, but at least it doesn't look like, the SWAT dog should come grab him and
Right.
learn to fight properly.
Or at least a SWAT cats.
Exactly. SWAT cat trainer.
Issue... I'm sorry, go ahead, Joanna.
No, I was meowing.
Okay. Issue 221, the story picked up a bit more when Frank had his ass nearly handed to him by these S.H.I.E.L.D. expatriates and needed to have the War Machine armor fixed. His trials and tribulations trying to capture someone and then get the armor fixed, that was more interesting because it put him on closer to even with the enemies he's dealing with.
I can't remember if it was 5 or 6 when this happened, but I really liked the part where he said, "What are my chances of beating this guy? 22%. I'll take him."
I think that was the 6th issue. I want to say that was 223.
Okay. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed the 4th issue when this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent he had captured the entire time drags him inside their former base and research lab, pulls him inside, then Nick Fury breaks in on a transmission, and when Castle says he's using this guy Supporta to try to fix the armor, Fury tells him, "Supporta? That traitorous little shit? He's not an engineer. He was a junior agent. He can't fix shit." And before Supporta can even finish a thought, Castle just puts a gun to his head, pulls the trigger, and that's the end.
Yeah.
Just no equivocation.
Without blinking.
Yeah, just
That's
no
classic
equivocation.
Castle.
No equivocation. No, give me a reason not to. Just, oh, well, F him then. Bam!
Well, this is just counterproductive. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen the guy's reaction to hearing that and knowing that, he's about to lose his shit, like, permanently.
I don't know.
Then he just turns to the next guy. "All right, Sandwich, what do you got?" I could try to fix it. All right, do it.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
Sandwich, you know how to make this work again? Maybe. You're hired.
Right.
I've already seen your severance package. I'll get to work. I did like late in this storyline when Nick Fury kept trying to break into the communications channel, and what was it? Frank Castle told both the AI and Fury, whichever one of you gets the other to shut up first wins, and the AI just kept cutting off the transmission, like right there. I win.
Yep, that was great.
A
I chuckled
reward
at
for
that.
every which one can get the other to shut the fuck up.
AI hangs up. I win.
Yeah.
What is the reward? I concentrate and maybe we don't get blown up.
Now, late in the 4th issue here, number 221, for a second I thought I was reading some Predator story. Because after the War Machine armor was fixed, it was Frank Castle doing these oddly near stealth kills on a lot of the local warlords' top generals and lieutenants.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out underneath that guy ice fishing, I almost felt sorry for the guy.
I was just thinking about that one. I like that one the best, I think.
Well, it wasn't quite as classy as the lady that tried to use him as a coat rack in the other guy's apartment.
Stealth. What is it? Stealth failed or
Yeah,
or something?
stealth mode hasn't been compromised, to which I had to ask, you were standing in a corner. What was stealth mode consisting of? Stand in shadow?
Yeah, like Batman. It works for him.
But I got to give him points for style when he just grabbed the guy by the shoulders and ripped him in half the long way.
Yeah, that was surprising. Even for Punisher, I was like, wow, that was grim.
Yeah. And then the 5th issue here, number 222, was Punisher's rematch with the Shield soldiers. And boy, did he start out pretty big there when he finally came across the new leader's army and just literally dropped a tank on them. And that's not hyperbole. He grabbed a tank and dropped it on the back of his forces.
I like the
Yeah.
previous cell for that because you see the shadow, like a square shadow above the assembly, and then someone looks up, what is going on? And then you see thud, and you realize that he literally dropped a tank on their ranks. It was great.
It did occur to
Or
me.
he used the turret as a bat. Or,
Yeah.
or more like a swatter.
It did occur to me during that scene. It's like these soldiers are just looking up like this is so odd. Then it occurred to me, wait, this isn't New York. This would be weird for them.
Yeah.
New York, this is like dime a dozen type stuff. There's always a building falling down there.
Yeah. They weren't there for the incident, as they call it.
Yeah. The rematch between Castle and the Shield soldiers was kind of cool, but it wasn't as cool because by now you've given the Punisher too much information as to what you're capable of, and he already knows half the things he has to do to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know how well trained these guys are. I know they're former Shield, but when you have the drop on the Punisher, then you decide to open the helmet on your armor and monologue.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was poor writing.
That really
Why
was.
Yeah.
monologue? It's the downfall. If you've seen The Incredibles, it's the downfall of every villain.
Look,
You caught me monologuing.
Yeah.
comic book
Incrediboy.
monologues are one of those almost necessary things. It's a static form of storytelling, so you need dialogue to tell a story. I get that.
Yeah, you gotta
But-
have some exposition to move the storyline sometimes, especially if you have a poor artist.
Right,
there's a
but
lot.
assuming that this is a Shield-trained soldier, what idiot stands over a guy with Frank Castle's reputation, which each of these guys know and almost hero worships anyway, and decide to open your visor to deliver the message? Don't you have any sort of PA system on this helmet?
Right.
Pride. I guess he figured that he had this one in the bag, and fuck you.
That
And
just
wrong.
that just
Yeah.
amazes.
Now, Inspector.
That just seems amazingly stupid. I got to lean on what Joanna said. This was a moment of bad writing. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it
Well,
delivered an epic moment when Castle
still
shoved that C4 in his helmet and shoved the visor. That was almost funny, but at the same time, it's like you opened yourself up to this.
It's like, I can't even be sorry for that.
Pretty much. You almost expect some kind of Looney Tunes style sound effect on that. A pop, some kind of like percussion sound, and then a cymbal crash.
Yeah.
And I almost love Castle's response to all that. After he blew the man's head off, the others just seem kind of shocked, and all he says is, "You think the camera's got that?"
Yeah.
The Punisher doesn't do quips. He just kind of does stuff to intimidate and scare people. His one-liners are more or less, "Can you believe I just did that?" Because I don't believe it either.
Right.
Stealth mode, compromised. We gotta work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
And
All right.
I mean, the climax of this, the final issue, number 223, the leader of this rogue nation fired a nuclear warhead because it's about the last ace in the hole he had versus the Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
And it did deliver some of the best action moments toward the end, as well as a seemingly semi-insane Frank Castle, who exploded the missile but caught the warhead and told everybody, if you don't get away from me, I will blow this thing up. And
I believe it.
yeah, unfortunately, when you're dealing with Castle, there's a 50-50 chance he's telling the truth.
My God, it really does look like an upside-down S.H.I.E.L.D. agent logo.
Yeah,
He's still on that.
that's on purpose. You feel like you discovered something.
I know.
Wow.
It was gone in one frame. You know, when he does the EMP, which makes me wonder, were they digital displays?
I don't know. That may have just
so.
been an art slip, because the guy in the back did have the helmet symbol still
Yeah,
on.
you're right. He did.
So it's just one of those weird slips. When the president of this state showed up, though, Frank Castle didn't have any more of the armor left after that EMP. The president breaks out in this Iron Man-esque armor that kind of looks like he stole Obadiah Stane's last set of armor.
Almost. The Ironmonger armor was huge.
Yeah, I know that's not directly here, but I would have thought they'd go for something a little different aesthetically. Give this guy something of a look, even if he is a one-off villain.
Yeah,
And-
he's the boss. It's
Yeah.
the boss level. You need to give him big armor.
Yeah, but
Right.
Doctor
At the same time, you also need to give him big armor that can be stabbed in the eye.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Wily he was not.
Yeah, or have your wrist cut. It's yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I would-
go ahead, Joanna, please.
Okay, I thought that, being the leader, he would have something, again, more special.
Mhm.
But I forget which character said it. They were talking about, oh, you don't have this uniform, and this group has that uniform, and this country has this uniform, but yours isn't any of them. And I think it's the farmer that Frank Castle meets.
I think you're right. I think it was that Vaca guy.
Right.
Mhm.
So it was weird to me that the leader, the guy in charge, doesn't have like some crest or symbol of his own, or some sort of fancier armor
Yeah, you would.
to kind
Right.
of show rank or importance.
I think you're right. Every time we've seen him, or any time someone's talked about him or the motions his army was doing, he sounded like an authoritarian egomaniac.
Mhm.
But at the
Right.
same time, his armor was so nondescript and strangely plain. I almost didn't believe it was him in there. I thought it was a feint or a decoy.
Yeah, I thought it was a decoy too at first because of that.
Yeah. I mean, the last fight wasn't bad. It was interesting seeing Frank Castle and almost literally nothing of the War Machine left except for one gauntlet take on a guy in a power suit with a knife and a gun and almost hand him his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we should bring this into a summation, and I'm still not sure what to think about this.
Well, I think we need to weigh the writing, the intentions, and the art, and how this was laid out.
All right.
And
You want to go
For
first with
me-
the final number score?
yeah, I'll do it. The writing, okay, we gotta stretch this out to 6 issues, Marvel. Writer, okay, I guess I can do that. Oh, here, you're gonna have this armor. Okay, well, I guess I'll look really great once I give it to a talented artist. Looks at the camera knowingly. So, I mean, in the hands of a talented artist, this could have been great. This would have sold fucking gangbusters in the trade paperbacks. And I'm pretty sure the writer just kind of winning his first couple issues, not really realizing the turd he was dealing with. It's a good Punisher story. What's really good about Punisher stories is that you see him sticking to his guns, figuratively, not literally. You see him dealing with people not realizing what they're dealing with and overcoming them, then getting into a situation where he might not get out of it, but he still gets out of it because he's the motherfucking Punisher, and everybody's dead. Story solved. And you had to stretch this out and included power armor. So we got lots of really cool power armor kills, lots of people's head getting blown up, and of course the ice fishing incident was really cool. So as a Punisher story, yeah, this was decent. It's about a 7 on the writing scale. The art, if it was drawn as a Punisher story without the armor, the art would have probably been about a 6 or 7. but they got the armor in there, so you're getting a solid 4 on this one. So, what do you got? What do you got? 7 and a 4. I think we're gonna come together and call this a 5.
Okay. Joanna, what have you got for this one?
I actually agree with Casey for once. I know, shock. The story was good. I enjoyed the story. I chuckled a little bit here and there at the quips and just at the creative kill shots and the bursting through the ice, I enjoyed it thoroughly. The big distraction for me, besides some of the plot holes, were the lack of details on the suit. I wish we could score them separately. Like, art is the score.
Right?
I would definitely give it a lower score art-wise, just for the suits. Other than that, I like the tone that it sets with the bleak colors for, a poorer country. They're out in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like a Cold War feel. That I know was done on purpose, so I'm not faulting them for the color.
Mm-hmm.
But the suit was lacking so much, and I got excited because I'm a big tech fan when it comes to like Iron Man and War Machine. I might not like the people in the suits as much, but the suits themselves, I'm there. So art, I would have to give it a 4 also.
Mm-hmm.
Story, I would probably give it about an 8.
Okay.
So we'll average that at a 6, I guess.
All right. It's not a bad read on a first look through, but when you have to scrutinize a story, there's a lot of cracks here. Unfortunately, the artist, I don't know if he just wasn't used to it, or if it was, or if he was busy with something else at the time and he was distracted. But there was a lot of odd moments as far as the visual look. The writing is mostly fine, except I guess I'm used to thinking of the Punisher as a very methodical person. Even though he runs into a room with guns blazing, he usually has a lot of intelligence and a lot of preparation ahead of time to cover his own rear end. And for some reason, the beginning to the end of this story, he was almost entirely improvising. It seemed like as soon as he got the armor, he stopped long enough to paint a skull on it and then got running. I mean, that was evident in the fact that he still hadn't figured out how to fire a single weapon on it by the time he arrived. I don't know if that means he stopped at Mako to get the makeover he was looking for or what, but there it is.
Oh my God, Mako, that is a throwback.
But it seems like I can't really fault the artist or the writer entirely. To me, this feels like editorial wasn't paying attention when it should have to make sure that their characters had the consistency they need if they're going to keep going with this particular version of Frank Castle.
They really should have fired the artist after the second issue or the third.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not laying this entirely at the feet of either one because it almost feels like it's the first time either of them worked this character. Just unfortunately, they were given a little bit too much free reign. Somebody above them should have been keeping an eye on this.
Which makes you wonder just how well Punisher is doing if they allow something like that.
That's my question. I mean, the story of Frank Castle getting the Punisher armor sounds interesting to me. The fact that he was re-interacting with the Marvel Universe after this storyline, as well as trying to kill the former heads of the Hydra Elite in the Secret Invasion, that sounds like a spot-on story for Frank Castle. This near prologue to this story, almost like a throwaway story, was where it fell apart. And for me, I think it's a studio failure. I got to give it a 4.
Yeah, that sounds right. You know what? I think Marvel editorial did finally realize what was going on, and maybe the guy was in a contract or something like that, because this could have been just an easy 6-issue, self-contained, trade-worthy series, and it would have been cool if the right art was in there. And they realized their problem is like, well, you know what? We've still got something that's good if we just have the right artist on it. And I think that's where, Punisher War Criminal is coming from, which is basically an extension of this story with a completely different artist.
But if instead for Punisher War Criminal, if the lead-in wasn't this story, if it was just instead Frank Castle and his obsession with Steve Rogers, as well as the knowledge that somebody that besmirched the people that besmirched his name are still alive, just wanted a tool to punish them and got his hands on the War Machine armor anyway, I would have bought that way more than this story.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate
easily.
part. If they had just cut to the quick, they probably would have had something very seamless, as well as something that could have delivered Frank Castle back into the larger Marvel universe instead of being an outlier. And instead, we got something that is the comic book equivalent of filler episodes.
Yeah, and this, I know I've said it like 3 times, but this is trade paperback bait. This is how you sell trade paperbacks when you get a cool concept like this. And people are just going to crack it in the bookstore and go, oh, God, no, I'm not buying this. I mean, Marvel will lose money from this particular storyline because of the choices they made.
Yeah. I can't remark on that. I guess I'll just end it by saying it's a missed opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the best way to putting this. It was a great concept that was put in the wrong hands.
Yeah. Because next week is very short for me, I only have Monday and Tuesday before I got to take off for San Diego Comic-Con. Do you mind if I throw down a suggestion for a miniseries next week?
What do you got?
Okay.
The No Justice miniseries, the one that's brought DC into its current era, just ended, and I've read the beginning and I've read the end. I would like to try to take it all in as a whole and see if it's a better story than I think it is, as well as it's just 4 issues long.
Yeah, okay. I haven't read it yet. I mean, it's been kind of low on my priority because I tend to prioritize my Marvel books over DC, even though I like them both. It's just Marvel tends to write better stuff.
Look, I fully admit, I don't read DC unless somebody hands it to me and tells me this is good. But at the same time, it seems like more than Metal, No Justice has set up just about every major story for their characters they're running right now. So I think it's a good idea to get caught up on that, so at least conceptually we understand what the next few solicits mean.
Yeah, there are some big stuff happening over at DC that I'm pretty sure none of us have really even looked at, especially the thing with the Watchmen. I'm assuming that's a big deal.
I'm guessing it is, but I'm one of the few people who, when he read the Watchmen, just said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it was my fault it was my fault for reading it in 2008, like 30 years after the product came out. That's my bad.
Well, I was intrigued when I saw Rorschach punching Joker. That was what I saw, right? He was punching Joker?
Yeah, that's the second Rorschach, though.
Yeah.
The original.
Second? See? I don't know jack shit about this.
Yeah.
I clearly need to read that.
Oh, well, spoiler, the original, it was revealed in like the second or third issue of the Doomsday Clock mini that the original did die. He's not resurrected. That's a new guy.
Oh, okay. Well, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. So next week we'll do the 4-issue No Justice mini by DC Comics. Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate your patronage. And it's so far it's been a lot of fun doing this, I gotta admit.
Yeah, it's our 10th episode.
Yeah, this is number 10. All right, thank you very much. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
And I am not Tom Hanks.
Oh, God, just give me your name, Dick.
Casey.
Thank you very much. Have a great one. I'm going to go kill Casey.